Alright, I'm going to go to the and the jig. San you Jimden Delia, double period, Gasso get on TV Gone, and the Jenny Temper Bemasiki, Jig Lapcheres, and they are double pure nation. The Negida, San you Jimden, the sonship, Gasso get on TV, Tony sonship, the Negin Anzulia, showing the Tersam J and Jigdos Lobsang Dorje Kabla, and the Chatham J rushing to be Dong by Nisata. Those in a San year, the Negi Gasso get on TV, Lamir Namshadi, San you Jimden, you somebody, Ramano Somba. She had Lama Duba, Suso Yam Yong on the Ramano Somba, they have to Grace. They have to Yondu, and the San you Jimden did it. Munera, Timiki, Resha, Sembegita, Dumba, Lana, Dumba Tarduba, Timiki, Imbating, how to Grace. The Dumba San you Jimden did Timiki, but in but the door yondu. And Dumba San you Jimden, soon because soon together, that Sosugi, Manova, because Yamyong Tony Sumba in Zam, and Dundela, Mano, the Matuva, and the Jig, Dusin how do, San you soon together, soon Semai, but how to Grace. Says I Denigi, that Denigi, how you do. That's on you Jimden, you soon ship you soon delia, Tersam Gomsum Jene, and the Jinyamyon Dobacule again, and that teaches to begin, Gumbulubla, so Gumbuluda, Papa Tormeda, Gumbulu, Napan, Dawada Palosobe, Kava Namda, and Big Kava, and the J. Yasumla so big, the Kava, and the Membege, Sosorani, Lam Dumbo, Shin Digilea. Missigida, Munera, Shene Devatova Jungres, Tis the Nigate door de Sangela Shene Devatovada, and it Jige, Din Jinjuk, Loma, Lamyam Rimba, and Dushiralia, Lamdeji Kivishin Bado, and Shene Devatova Jungres, on the kissing of the Digo Shirua. Tis not Tageda David. San you Jimden, the Gumbuluki, and San you Jimden, the Taget, they were going to somebody else and then to Cheva Zevarova, Chichi Zevarova. Just a Taget and they were going to San you Jimden, the that's some be treated, Tersam Jebala Dene, to be how go on do, and San you Jimden, Semiki win, but to good such this tomorrow, the Shirua.
Good evening. So, for the last couple of weekends, we've been looking at this section on how the realization of emptiness deepens one's refuge and bodhicitta. And this section commenced with a quotation from Nagarjuna, where he's praising Buddha Shakyamuni for having taught the presentation of dependent arising, and thereby the method to overcome the 8 extremes of neither ceasing and so forth. And thereafter, His Holiness commented that because the Buddha has taught an unmistaken, because the Buddha has attained the realized state of perfection, he is an authentic or valid being, and because he taught from his own experience, his unmistaken experience, his teachings are also valid or authentic. And then in terms of the great students of these teachings, we've had the teacher, the Dharma, and now we come to the great students, in particular the great pandits such as Nagarjuna himself from ancient India, as well as the many outstanding lamas in Tibet, as well as one's own teacher, those who have gained transformative realization in their mind of the teachings from the Buddha. They too are suitable to rely on. And this, then we can reflect, through reflecting in this way, we can see that the Buddha, his teachings, and the community of realized practitioners all are suitable to rely on.
Sanje Jimne de Koran, Lam Yamlin Jebala Dene, and Sanje Sanjo Kovan Tobada, Deniki to the Sanje Dan, Sanji Sumi Che Dan, Che Sanjo Concho, Che Concho, Kitun Concho, Sum de Leana, Juame Beke Deva, Devata, and Kituri, the Deva Tempo Kituri, Saji, on those Sonroa.
In this way, one comes to give rise to stable and unchanging faith in Buddha Shakyamuni, the teacher of the entire path and his community. In other words, one generates a faith that is unstable and unchanging in the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, and the Sangha jewel.
다른 도시네 내용의 수단다 마도바는 라마의 숙배를 접수 시에서바디 이치기 대바로 책으로 와. 다 되네게 도시는 아주 심주의 상기의 송셰비게 마 송리아 퇴바제 삼바제 누곰제 된다게 내수도 죄제되게 지메지나 또요도 안데디 상기 송바데 오늘랑 송바나진 된다 다가라 레도아 선비게 체명해바 또요도 안에 상기 좀네디 오늘랑 밀루아레샤스 노트민도 셈비게 덴바시 현지레샤 셈비 세미기부 또도 또 세미 또면서 다 될어야 신의 대바 토발레 또 대바도 유어로에 매버 미션다 지금 어디디 말해 되네 되네서 지금 시셰베네 어디 말해 행딩이 하고 그 셈비 소소 땡서지어와 진이 반자 소식이 세명해 봤냐 봐이나 아니 이식이 가서 대바도 유어로야 말해 지래 다 세명해 봐만냐 봐이네 이집에 대바지나 네 야지기 이제 마께라 치보션다 배 천년다 침보다 되네지기 키시에 개바지기 마시에진 마 되네데 말에 디디 제데 되네지 뭐 되네질라고 디 말에 되네레 세파 셰베네 아니 아직 유어줘야게 냥아요 오다디 간에 해나 선배게 유어줘야게 냥아요와 제가 되네자디 디 이치기 대바데 되서 아니 유어줘야 유어스기리 괜찮아 되네 대신에 하고 된다 니스도 하고 내나 아니 유어줘 수시베네 유어줘 투야 말하다 다 계획이나 상계는 술리네 대바지 이치기 대바지나 상계리나 다 건조숨 이치기 대바지는 미션다지 건조숨 말 건조직마도 요 말해서다 되네게 개바지기 시작하는 유어줘 시기로 와 되네게 지나다 수수기 시내 대바 토바이나
If we look at the word faith, if we look at the word faith, which can also be translated as conviction or trust, we can divide faith in differing ways, but to divide it into two. There's the initial faith, which we can call the faith of trust, and then a far deeper faith of knowledge. Maybe in English it's better we say the faith based in trust and the faith based in knowledge. That's probably better. So the initial faith, which is the faith based in trust in our Lama and in the three jewels, this is the faith that we will start out with. And whilst it is a virtuous mind and it is indispensable, it is not stable. It is not yet a level of faith that we could say the faith itself is not yet completely reliable. However, whilst having such a level of faith, one will be receptive to receiving teachings and following guidance on how to reflect on them and then reflecting on them. And through this process that one engages in repeatedly over a sustained period, one gathers more knowledge and deepens that knowledge within oneself through the process of study and reflection. This then leads to one to come to recognize with valid cognition that the teachings are true. Therefore, or valid, true or valid, therefore, so too is the teacher, the founder teacher, as well as one's Lama, the founder teacher being Buddha Shakyamuni, as well as one's Lama, as well as all others included within the Sangha jewel. All are valid. And this then gives rise to a faith that is far more powerful and now is stable. And this is the faith based in knowledge. The advantage of the faith based in knowledge as opposed to the faith based in trust is that the faith based in trust is not unchanging, it is not stable. And therefore, one may well be misled by a charismatic teacher. There is that danger that someone that one may give rise to, one may trust in someone who misleads one. Whereas when one has gained realization of the teachings, given rise to a valid cognition in the teachings, then one's faith is a faith based in knowledge. That is unshakable, and one cannot be misled from the correct or valid path.
Tadi sosuki di keling di sosu semeng eba dugo mar mi shenda ji xie xia ba de yi xi qin de yi qian de da ra re le go ba da qi su chen ji bi ge yang pa xin bu jie ji zhe xin bu jie de da zhen li de ne re men du zhen dong guo guo le xia si ji de da de xi da zhen li pa ji ge de nan ring bu qie di ga le ni me guo guo de di sam le duo sa da yo le sen be yi xi de me ba xia sa le da ka sun de zhen li da guo guo le 고호야 제대로스 때문에 호라도 거라 잡지 거라서 되게 삼라들 레디고 와당한 당아도 되는지 이치지고 와당아도 이냥 아주 소소라란 게 체명해 봐 니여베스네 체명해 봐 또요 말고 무슨 또요 말고 체닉비 개비게 셰바 될라드네 다라 이시신지고 와 나뭐 바나양 지구와 시바이네 게시 조바이네 베니 체닉바 개바 오니마게 제대로 zemni 고걸 사야 되는 저 강제 볼 나신 고걸 아레면도 다 푸디 볼 나신지 되스 고거 이마제 되스 나나 둘라바이나 아는 아주 양 다디 고거 섬자디 비교와 친제 zemni도 오다 되스 무라 저를 선배게 삼로 레시기로와 그래서 내가 저기 체명해 봐 많이 바래 마통화로와 체명 마도가지 생기 셰바디 이지전에 이신에 되고로 봐 지상아 줄서면 되네 망고요 봐다 지나다 되네 인자 안에다 되네기 소식이 원이랑 체명해 봐 녀봐 있나 아니 유네 매변에 매로지 매들 라바천에 치 차와요 해야지 아주 체명해 봐다 수수라베네 매 차와요 말을네 유네 저기 킬링 말와 semno gyuwa tang tu ya mar garasana ma ju mele pa reje ne chawa de so so nyoro nyone cheme nge ba yinza ani gyuwa tang tu ya me ba ro ndi na xin sanji da sanji sung be chöl ya so so gi don da cheme nge ba nye ba yin na den gyuwa tang de ba gyuwa ru ma re sa chi.
Continuing to look at how the realization of emptiness deepens our refuge in bodhicitta. To take examples from the conventional world, the ordinary world. So there was a time when those who were wise and knowledgeable told the common folk that the world is flat, and not only is it flat, but the sun circles the world. And this is what people believed, they trusted in this. Others, then some time later, scientists discovered that this cannot be the case. And they recognized that actually the earth circles the sun as well as the earth was round. And they presented this new fact. And that served to dispel the previous wrong view. And now people believe that the world is round and circles the sun. But I don't know for you, but for myself, this is something I still take on trust. I haven't developed a valid cognition knowing that the world is round and circles the sun. I believe what the scientists say, so I accept this. So of the two types of faith, both of these views have the faith based in trust, not the faith based in knowledge, because a valid cognition hasn't been generated. So if now a further scientist comes out and says, we've discovered something new, that the earth is not round like a tennis ball, but is actually the shape of a rugby ball. And if they present it in a convincing way and the world seems to believe that, well, because I haven't generated a valid cognition with regard to the previous view, I'm likely to be swayed by the new view. However, where something that I have developed a valid cognition in, as I know all of you will have, is that fire is hot. And if anyone were to say to us, no, fire is not hot, we would not believe them, because we have given rise to a valid cognition in relation to that fire is hot. So therefore, we have faith based in knowledge that fire is hot. And no one, no matter how persuasive, even if they have a large following, will be able to turn us away from that conviction. And so too with the Buddha Dharma. When one has an open heart, an open mind, and hears the teachings and accepts them and integrates them, whilst one's going through this process, one's faith is still based in trust. But when one has given rise to valid cognition in relation to the teachings, then one's faith is stable and will not waver, cannot be swayed. Then one has faith based in knowledge. Turning to the text, page 25, there's a quotation near the top from Chandakirti. In his text, the 70 stanzas on the 3 refuges. So just to say, in the translation, I've changed a word in the second line, and throughout the commentary that will follow from His Holiness, I've changed the same word, from wishing to aspiring. The word is wishing, but I think aspiring matches the intended meaning rather better. So the quotation, the Buddha, his teachings and the Sangha are the protecting refuges of those aspiring for liberation.
tarpa döba namki gyab res, gyab ngui res, tarpa döba namki gyab res, tarbi gopang topra döba namki gyab res, sungkorwa.
Chandakirti in his text, this 70 stanzas on the 3 refuges, is saying in brief that the 3 jewels are the suitable refuge for those seeking liberation from samsara.
The tarba devanum get capres, the capsum data, San Yokonju, Chokoju, Kidugoncho said. Tizada, Dina de San Yokonjo, the mu, Shivana, San Yokonjo, the Captain Bob Horse, and the Captain Bob, Chokonjo, the Cap Mueres, Kidugonjo, the Cap to be Tauro, et San Yokonjo, the Captain Bob Horse, Chokonjo, the Cap Mueres. Kidding conjure the Hanzo Yap Yamlin chickens like Yap to get the robot and that door said. The niggy, that's some did kept some the way so I did this one.
The 3 jewels need to be known. So, 3 jewels, Buddha jewel, Dharma, Sangha jewel, we need to know what these are, understand them. The Buddha jewel is the founder teacher, the founder of this tradition, or the initial teacher rather, the initial teacher of this tradition. The Dharma jewel is the actual refuge, and the Sangha jewel are our companions, or our assistants, or those who assist us.
Chitanda Sangye controller de Delia Sangye la Sunyo de Sang said the Geshe said Niyongorwa. Chitan Sang said the Nyomo but Tiva Pasha de Java Meva Seva Chila, and Meva Seva the Pangpatilla Sang says Kugura Sang, and the Nile Sang la de Ni Kurche, and a pa Ni Meva Chayo to Nile Sang, Ni Sang like Rua. Ni Kurche, Ya say you the Ni Sang like Rua. 现在尼库没那尼上来个嘛了哇？现在尼上来一堆当波尼库，现在尼库呢，真的呀，尼的没法掐起呀，怕当一堆尼的没法掐一堆尼来上话来个是吧？是吧？就是说，我的那心啊，就有了牛虻，对下空中啊，也牛虻把些，你他们这个就那个早啊，电子马力把些，现在电子马力把它是啥不呢？这把崩上堆，那上下去，其实上下的。 nyomomba de nyomombu yu sabun ba chada jeba chasan meba sweba de la meba swene pangba pangno de sang se ku go sang la go ba da.
The word for Buddha, Sangye, these two syllables have great meaning. So looking at the first, that of Sang. Sang means to have abandoned their afflictions together with their seeds and imprints completely. So this then, of course, refers to the root cause of all the afflictions, the ignorance of true grasping, that this has been completely eradicated together with its seeds and imprints. And the same word, sang, is also the word for awakened, as in awakened from a slumber or awakened from sleep. And it refers specifically to the complete eradication of their afflictions together with their seeds and imprints.
Tisa denige sangwa inza ne gane sangwa re lamna digi nyembo lam gomba le tene ane sangwa res meba chawa de gane sangwa res meba chawa re la go pangwa res go de gane pangwa re la de digi nyembo ane gas penanga jugi de ji nyomo tamjige zawa juni yu tenze marikba di nyembo nda meba to be tongpa ni to be lo de gomba le tene ane pangware sachi pangorwa jizadi nigi pangware sedo ta chue konjo di ngazo sangye chaya di garele tene chago sine chue konjo de nyamlen jebala tene chue konjo de kiyo de ne de sangwa sachi pangore se pang ane sang nyomo ba cha pangba sang se de yongore che.
This first syllable of the word for Buddha, Sangye, sang. So this can be translated as awakened or cleansed or purified. So with that in mind, so what is being cleansed or purified or awakened from is ignorance. In particular, the ignorance of self-grasping or the ignorance of true grasping. And one awakens from that ignorance or purifies that ignorance completely, together with afflictions, together with the seeds and imprints. How does one cleanse oneself of this ignorance? It's through cultivating the direct antidote. So to eradicate the ignorance of self-grasping, one cultivates the direct antidote of the wisdom realizing selflessness, or the wisdom realizing emptiness. And when one generates the wisdom directly realizing selflessness, through having trained over an extensive period, one then generates the Dharma jewel. And it's the Dharma jewel that one generates within one's own continuum, which serves to this function of sang, or to abandon, to purify, to cleanse, leading to awakening.
다유 시지 윤된 강식바 캔바 투기 캔바디 차상 다 시지 윤된 탐지 예바레스 다 예사와레 예바레스 딜레 라바직 다 자야요 말레스 윤내 차상 아니 신차와레스 예바레스 지상 예바레스 지상 상슬라면도 가르구구도 쓰는 델이야 저기 권조에다 권조들라 최권조데 고된나 람데니요로와 람덴디 고된디 고고를 상지 빵비 요모바 바샤데 제바 빵바레스 빵바데 고고를 상세 다 예라도 최 담지 온선도 바 타르친 바레 스지도 다 가소레 예데 가소레 당 람딘 라 그서 최고체 나네 제 고된나 람딘이 있는데 람덴디 고고를 지산 다 디니 버디 고고도고를 지산 상기 라여도 지산 요모바 차산 바샤데 제 빵바레 아니 투기 연된 시제 탐지 캠바 탈침바래 사지 지들아 상계라도 녀모 바차다 제바 뻥바 뻥차와래 사지다 시지윤데 말로바 차상 캔차와래 시들다 캔요 말이다 캔차와래 뻥상지도다 뻥차르데 빠요 말이다 지나다 탈투바 차들 지나 상계세야 대 직니디기 디고고르다 된다라
This quality of sang, or awakening, or cleansing, this is attained with the generation of true cessations. Then the second quality, the second syllable in the word sangye in Buddha, gye, then this, the word gye in a general context means vast or expansive, or to fill entirely. Here, gye refers to vast as in qualities. Good qualities are vast, but to the extensive and vast, to the good qualities of the practitioner. And this then comes with the attainment, or is achieved through attaining true paths. So again, the quality of sang, which is to cleanse, or to cleanse, this is attained with true cessations, and gye, which refers to vast qualities, is attained with true paths. And this refers to all the great qualities that now have been developed in the mind. And as the true cessations and true paths, with true cessations leading to the sang aspect and true paths leading to the gye aspect, as these are developed to the point of perfection, then one is suitable to be called sangye, or a Buddha.
Bendigo 중에 미딘 고니래 상샤세다 나니래 상 슬라비아도 기시데 나도 나니래 상 상인스 고니래 상선의 기시도 가르고도스네 니래 상라도 디니래 니쿠고바데 고토고르와 고니래 상 가니래 상도 슬라비아도 디니래야 니래 니쿠고바데 니쿠고바데 하고토고르와 니래 상라 디나신 아주 상세도 녀모 직 차상 매버서 차와래 세지 고고르래 주디 가르 매바 수바래래 매바 수야지 요고거다 유인데 매바 수야지 고고를 맞 매바 수야지 매나 매바 수야래 라요 말고 진짜 상나도 직 차상 매바 수야래 세라요도 가르 매바 수바래라나 매바 수야요 고고 디 가르 고스네 녀모바 바샤다 제바디 대소 매바도 수야바래 세지 고고를 진짜 디 빵자 녀모 바샤다 제바디 빵자디 빵아요 바디 딜고 두고래지 시단 게 라도 양직 차상 신 차와를 직 먼저 내가 차와를 내가 직전에 차와를 와다 디나신하도 직 롭정 전행의 신송세 지어로 맞이나 신세요 말어 제사다 신바레스도 소소기 직 배주 제바되네 제발된原来 신바도 차상 탈신바도 하고 개발고 두고래서 디는 디네게 직니디게 디네 고용도 갑라 상계세디 유단 kiến 강라야 마되어바 그런 랑신기 랑중기 기고 상예지 요 말에서 그거 그래서 상계세디 유단 kiến 녀모바 망보지 매바 쇠에게 람 곰제 냠수 렘발에 때 냠는제 곰발에 때네 녀모바디게 파 매바 쇠와래 아니 연내디 파 장도진 차상 희와래 라요도 세상 상계세디 유단 kiến 현지를 되는 주바 마도 간라이 마도 랑원의 주바 요 말에서 고투고래지 세상 규단 낀래 되는 주바 람 냠는 제발에 되는 주바 상기 교고고 세상 람 냠는 제네 한 디비 녀모바 차상 빵 되는 시주인된 바 림바 두수진 한 상기 교와데 고투고래 세상 상기세디 상기도 교와데 고투고래서 나도 디니에 직다하나라 되네 뜀바 니 강에 셰비 람 데스와 뜀바 니 강에 디니에 직진이에들라 뜀바 니 강에 셰비 람데 수신도 슈비 족 게딘다 제발라 세디자 됴바세 산지호랑 강에 셰바스 람냠린 제발라 되네 하고 중화리 세지고 제가 되니게 상계 셰비 세디기 다가라 듣고 두고래 세지 드신 거래 세우셔서
Just to recap the previous segment and then move into this segment. So the quality of Sang, which is to cleanse or to purify or to awaken. So this is attained through the generation of true cessations, and true paths leads to the Gye aspect, which is the generation of vast qualities. And when these two are developed to the point of perfection, then one is a perfected being, and suitable to be called Sangye, or a Buddha, or someone who has fully, completely awakened. And this term, Sang, which is the awakening from sleep, if we say that someone has awoken, this implies that beforehand they were asleep. And that also therefore implies that something needed to be eliminated, which was the sleep. So in the terms of the path to Buddhahood, what needs to be eliminated is affliction together with their seeds and imprints. These are the objects of abandonment in order to achieve the perfected state of Buddhahood. And the second term, that of Gye, or vast. So here, this refers to if there are good qualities which are attained through the cultivation of true paths. So these good qualities, these true paths, show that something has become known, and therefore something has become known and been developed. And here needs to be developed to the point of perfection. Just like the process of purifying or cleansing, this too needs to be developed to the point of perfection. That is when Buddhahood is attained. From this explanation, we understand that these two pathways, these two characteristics of Sang and Gye, of cleansing and vastness, or these good qualities, these are what are required for Buddhahood to be attained. Therefore, Buddhahood is dependent. It's dependent on cleansing and vast qualities. Therefore, Buddhahood is a dependent arising. It's dependent on causes. And there are the one set of causes, the one class of causes, is through one needs to abandon completely the afflictions together with their seeds and imprints, and this is done through cultivating the path. And the cultivation of the path, now these vast qualities, these too come about in dependence on causes. So in this way, we come to recognize that Buddhahood itself is a dependent arising, which means it is achievable, and it's achievable through the correct cultivation of the unmistaken causes. And then read from the sentence from above the quotation. Similarly, one will be able to generate firm and wavering faith and respect for our spiritual mentors who presently teach us the unmistaken paths, and for the Sangha who are friends, abiding properly on the paths on which the teacher himself traveled.
어디서 다 되니게 상기에서 직디 고용도 내가 저기 삼 나라서는 지금 약속들에 선배 삼는 데네시 레토야 지어봐다 다 되니게 난 가시게 상기에라도 묘모 좀 바쳐대 좀 빵바래 시주인데 말로 바탐지 현차와래 사지 야로를 차도야 지용으로 묘모 빵제 바쳐대 저 빵차와래 시주인데 차상 현차와래 사지 근데 삼는 날 고으로 봐 상기에서 고요도 가르 구글에서 내 가시기 어디 디게라지 야부시부래 선배 삼마다 현단에 수신다 하고 마도지 삼나디 용으로 봐 가시기 가는 것은 상기에서 직도 고요도 가라 다 묘모버 집어 바샤다 집어 차상 빵차와래 시주인데 차상 현차와래 해서 내 잠 고야지 용으로 봐 다 되네 가는 것은 상기에서 고요도 다 되네 시주인데 차상 현차와래 빵자 탄지 빵와래 빵타 림바 디네 빵고 상제 고방 토발라 당보람 냠네지 디네기 림바 디네 준 로고레 세비 림바 차상지 디네게 상제 세비 시디 고도 고도 상제기 메네 전주스메 람 냠리 림바 차상 고토겐지 용고레 제가 소소게 로라 바베긴 다 디네게 토네 옹볼 바베 토네 상제기 마 칙칙네 상제지 송로도 누자 캄 소소게 옹볼 되베게다 고탕을야 가시게 되었고 가시 개바되 가시게다 민이게 장주선비게 산교금네 민이야 닌제 잠 닌제 다 하산 남자 장주선 파주주에 냠는 두제발에 때는 산교고와 토구레서 비게 남냠네 이름바 차상지 고토야지 되네 용토보 받아 지산 되네기사 당하는 중에 진짜 상기시베 칙텔에 지부들이야 되네 용고래지로
Hearing the word Sangye or Buddha, depending on the individual person, something very different will arise in their mind in relation or in response to hearing this word. Some will have the faith, a very limited level of faith, which is just, a Buddha is the best level of being. It's the most incomparable being. And that's it. Others will have an understanding much more similar to what I've just presented here, and understand that that Buddhahood is attainable because it is a dependent arising. It's dependent on the eradication of all faults completely, the Sang aspect, and the accumulation of all good qualities perfectly, the Gye aspect. Others still will have an even deeper understanding. And for them, they'll have a deep understanding of what is meant by the wisdom realizing emptiness and how to cultivate it, as well as what is meant by the varying paths of the bodhisattva that need to be cultivated, the Gye aspect. So they will have a far deeper understanding. And others, further still, having a similar understanding, will have some experiential experience of these levels of training. So in this way, we come to see how different practitioners can have a very different response to hearing just this single word of Buddha, independent on their knowledge and their integration of that knowledge.
Chö koncho se de la da de la negap ki chö koncho da tardu ki chö koncho se yungurwa benenga zogi janju semba phabe gyule yu hengi an lamden da goden de negap ki chö koncho chagiro ma da tartu yo marwa janju semba phabe gygi chö lamden da goden yorwa dezo negap re ma da tartu yo marwa dene sang ge yurowa denu nyamne ja mangbu yorwa jidan janju semba kanje phabe gygi lamden da goden de 아주가서 상ye 마인바 소 셈진 파비 유예네 고텐의 람덴디게 내가 비추고죠 최고래 다 파비 디나신 파비기다데 상마 예비게 셈진 파비게 강자 기능바디게 강사디게 내가 비게는 거죠 최고래 그러와 다 디니게 상ye 유기 축조 고텐의 람덴니 보디 다 탈도 비추고죠래 다 상ye 파비 강사 윤딘디네 상ye 코롱 강사 상ye 파비 강사디 니 탈두기 게는 거죠. 제가 당원주 최고권주들 내갑지 최고권주다 탈두기 최고권주 니샤주고래 개균권주들 내갑지 개균권주도 최고 탈두기 개균권주 써야지 니샤주고래 산제권주들 니요 말다 탈두기 산제권주 지금 말이야 말했어. 마치고지 니요래서 산제들라 산제권주라 내갑지 산제권주를 탈두기 산제권주에서 니체요 말이지 산제 내 탈투버와 최상 방차와도 연단这些讲차와过了哇现在那个比上一赛的态度比上一也完一切要嘛这些你态度要嘛了吧上一什么跑跑的给定过去了吧现在给定过去太轻吧那边是太轻要嘛了吧可今天路上就忙不了了吧现在的讲是什么年对的那让人的心境上嘛一边跑别干啥的那个比给定过去好说了다가 내가 불러도 상마예비 기는 거 저래라고 그래. 진짜 다 디네 상예 파바디 탈두기 기는 거 저래. 탈투버에 상예 차와래라고 그래. 강사들래. 디나신 람된 데당 고된 데를 최고권제 데라양 파비게 상마예비 강사기 최고권 고된 람된디 내가 비 최고권 좋았어. 그 탈투요 말이지. 다 상예 유기 람된의 고된 이디 탈투버래.现在缺工作的了，他突破的，他没对比缺过的，你话你切了，给定工作的了，他突比给定工作的，他没对比给，那给定工作啥的，也话你切要来些，你要你切，上节工作的了，你切要嘛来些，啊，对对对。상계기 고된다 남도 여러 봐. 디 최고권주로 봐. 전주 선비기 말어 봐. 탈투로 봐디. 제가 최고권주들 니도 하지. 탈투건지나 탈마도 봐지 니도 하지. 제가 최고권주들 탈두기 최고권주나 탈모도 최고권주 예와 니체도 하지. 디나지 파부의 강사디 기둥권주들 탈두비 기둥권주나 탈모도 기둥권주 예와 니체도 와. 전주 선비 파바데 탈매진 봐라 와. 기둥권주로 와. 탈투요 말와 탈마투 버디체 상제 파와디 기둥고저와 탈 침벌와다 제단 기둥고저들 탈 침벌지는 탈마 침벌 니도 하지 에제 니도 와 상제라 니체요 말이지 상제 공저들 탈 침벌 상제 공저다 탈마 침벌 상제 공저 니체요 말이지 제단 상제 공저들 탈 침벌 상제 공저 직장이지 최 공저들他的亲爸的嘛，亲爸是12000元的，给定过去的来12000元的钱，啊，对，那大概是谁会下上？
Okay, sorry, it wasn't so clear. Now it's clear. So the Dharma jewel, we've heard already, is the actual refuge. So the generation of true paths and true cessations in the continuum of an Arya being, such as an Arya Bodhisattva. So an Arya Bodhisattva has generated, in the moment of becoming an Arya Bodhisattva, they generate the Dharma jewel within their continuum, because they have now given rise to true cessations and true paths. However, whilst they have true cessations and paths in their continuum, those cessations and paths are not yet perfected. So then these would be called, perhaps the way to translate would be a temporary Dharma jewel. They are not yet perfected. It's only as they continue their training and their development, when they become a Buddha, then the true paths and cessations now are perfected. But prior to that, the Arya beings who are not Buddhas, such as Arya Bodhisattvas, they are still developing the Dharma jewel within them, and therefore these true cessations and this Dharma jewel is called a temporary Dharma jewel rather than a perfected Dharma jewel. And just to say as an aside, I'll confirm tomorrow that the translation of temporary Dharma jewel is correct, because this word can be translated in different ways, but temporary. But I'll check tonight. And also then at the moment of becoming a Dharma, generating the Dharma jewel within the continuum of this Arya Bodhisattva, they also generate arise as a Sangha jewel as well, now that they are an Arya being. But still, this is a temporary level of attainment in that it is not yet perfected.
Tene ngāzu karchāgari ngāzu chūgōnchū gyūla lewarwa, chūgōnchū. Tene chūgōn le lamdīn gyūla kiyo tene ngāzu pāpe kānsā chāra gēdīng gōchū chāsōng warwa. Chisa lamdīn gyūla kiyo bāla tene ane gēdīng gōchū chāgō gore. Chisa lamdīn gyūla ma kiyo na gēdīng gōchū chāyā ma, sāngyō gōchū chāyā ma. Chisa lamdīn gyūla kiyo tene gēdīng gōchū chāyā. Tene lam nīmbāri nukōm chidu gōgtīn, nēkāt yu gōgtīn, nyōmō pa pāngpi ki sāpon na che pāngpi gōgtīn ki rinpa rinpa top. Tene ma jin topne, tene thara nyomo ba basha na cheba pangyo du, ne sanye konchose. Pene nyomo ba sabo na cheba pangyo du, pangpe pangpa di ngana zhugila kiyo du, tene kowa le tarparwa. Chesan kowa le tarpa di sui jigido sine, nyomo ba sabo na chebi ke lamdin gyula kiyo, di gomba la tene nyomo ba sabo na chebi pangpe pangpa di ngana zhugila susu gila kiyo du, tarpa chagir mado, 디마제 발도 타바차도에 민도와 세상 capungwe 세디 코발을 줘 원에디 가리 주고 랍나 나아서 줄에 녀모바 사번 집에 빵비 빵바 마진이래야 상계 건조 여러분은 열어봐 이내에 나가서 코발을 줘요 말에 근데 기둥 건조 하나도 취 로션 기둥 건조 로바제 기둥 건조 열 때 이나 아주 코발을 줘요 말와 타려 말와 세상 당아도 두스 냠는 제발에 되네 녀모바 사번에 집에 빵비 빵바도 토요디 tene kowal dhaware, chesan gyabareda, gyabngwe sayadi, chesan godin lamne nyamsu lembale, tene godin di sabana cheba pangba toyo gyabngwe chare. Tene basha da cheba pangba di toyo di sanje chasonarwa. Chesan ngāzu liya drachumba chaya na sanji pene kidung gongcho chaya di la karugu usne chwe gongcho de ngāzu gyula gye hudu, chwe gongcho gyula gye hudu, ngāzu kidung gongcho chaya hudu. 단 요모바 사본 바샤다 제바 빵베 최 공지장 줄에 끼어도 당아서 상예 차를 코발로 요모 바샤다 제벌로 저 차바래 제자다 최 공지대 잡고에 세야디 디스고래
Currently sitting here, we don't yet have true paths in our continuum. But when we do, in the moment that we generate true paths, we will have attained the Dharma jewel and the Sangha jewel, and we'll be counted amongst Arya beings. Or maybe we'll generate, when we attain true paths, we will have attained the Dharma jewel, we will be included amongst the Sangha jewel, as well as being an Arya being. Then, as we continue to train, we'll develop ever further levels of true cessations. As our true paths develop, and we attain ever higher levels of true paths, we attain ever subtler levels of true cessations. And eventually, we will abandon the afflictions together with their seeds in their entirety. And it's only at that point that we will actually be liberated from samsara. Prior to that, we will have attained the Dharma jewel within us, we will be counted amongst the Sangha jewel, but we will not have yet completely abandoned the afflictions together with their seeds, although we will have started actually abandoning them, but it will not yet be completed. When the afflictions and their seeds are completely abandoned, liberation is attained. Liberation from samsara in its entirety is attained. And all that will be left then are the imprints or the stains of the afflictions. Once liberation has been attained, then the afflictions and their seeds have been completely abandoned. Between the attainment of the Dharma jewel and being included amongst the Sangha jewel, one is not yet liberated from samsara, but it has started to sequentially completely abandon the afflictions together with their seeds, and when that is completed, one is liberated When one is liberated from samsara, one still has the imprints or the stains or the afflictions. And when they are, through the continued development of the Dharma jewel within one's continuum, in other words, continuing to develop true paths and cessations, when those stains are completely abandoned, then the Dharma jewel is perfected and Buddhahood is attained.
Sanje shanda mangpo yorwa, sanje tuenpa chumden de yorwa, nga su lamde sanje yorwa, dadi nekab su sanje kaze yona sanje de nga rang zuki yu kyab nga rang su lamden kan yu re ma do nga rang zuki tewu chagwa ma, nga su yu kyab dada nga rang su lamden kan gewe shinyen dan, ane pape kesa de nga su yu kyab dada ane sanje dan pape kansa yu le yu de ka lamden yorwa, deso nga su yu kyab Sanje jumden de yorwa gyugyapre nganzu gyugyapre nganzu debu rebesne debu mara gyureche sanje jumden de tu kilo yube lamden yorwa diya nganzu gyugyapre sanje khorang gedung go jorwa gyugyapre dina shen janju semba papa da nyande papa gaza mangbo yorwa dis chaza nganzu gi dade nganzu garesne nganzu gyugyapre nganzu go debu tum maduba shana yedigen chaza Shen Pape Ganza dan Sanje dan Chito Gyugyab Shen Yu Gyula Mi Shenda Yu Gyula Gyu Trubde Genge Chio Gongjo Di Yanganzu Gyugyab Re Jere Ganzu Gyugyab Re La Gora Da Ngaranzu Ge Soso Rangi Lam Nyamle Jila Maomba na Soso Gyula Lamden Gyula Cha Gye Jorwa Gige Di Ganzu Devi Gyab Re Jisa da Ngaranzu Soso Rana Lamdi Gyula Kido Soso Rana Papa Cha Jo Pacharwa Di Devi Gyab Re Dine sosoran nyam jebale dine tardu sosoran sanje chaya jorwa di devi gyabres. Chesan dada nganazu lam nyamlen jebale dine maungpa na nganazu gata chagirisin sosoran pabe kansa chagiri soso gyugi sem nyamlen lam nyirinpa di choko ja charu gore. Anim di nyamlen jebale dine tar sosoran sanje charu sanje gowa toruwa. Chesan di soso rana nyamlen jebala tina maungpa no soso rana tobyage pape kansa dang ani soso gyule kiyeke lamden dang dine ani sanje di soso rana sanje koma tobya sanje di tele devi kyab reyase wara jita devi kyab sede devi ngana zuki devi kyab tela chwe koncho yore gedung koncho yore sanje koncho sunga yore dado yore besan dado yomare maungpa no dugyuruwa tele devi kyab reyase wara dada ngana zole ya drup diken shanda yedike ngana zu lam duken ane sanje dang ane jik pape kasa dang di gyule yedike lamden dike chasan ngana zu gyu gyab reyase chasan gyab le yawa chirang soso rang la chabay na soso gyu gyab dang devi gyab se ni ichi gore chasan dinike kyaba rochi.
Now, not only are we not Buddhas, we are not yet Arya beings, yet we have refuge. We have refuge in Buddha Shakyamuni, the Buddha jewel, as well as his perfected true paths and cessations in his continuum, the Dharma jewel, as well as the Sangha jewel, the Arya beings, and their true paths and cessations on their continuums, the Dharma jewel. So those are the three jewels we go to refuge now. Other beings and realizations on their continuum. And that is called the causal refuge, our causal refuge. And it refers to Arya beings, such as Arya Buddhas, such as Buddha Shakyamuni and Arya Bodhisattvas, and so forth, as well as the realizations on their continuums. So that's to whom we go for refuge now, and that's called the causal refuge. Through relying on the causal refuge, we will eventually generate true paths and cessations in our own continuum. Now, on our own continuum, we'll have given rise to, as we generate true paths and cessations, the Dharma jewel, and we will be an Arya being, so we will be accounted amongst the Sangha jewel. Now, the Dharma jewel and the Sangha jewel that we have generated within ourselves are the resultant refuge. They've come about independent from relying on the causal refuge. And as we train ever further, And we progress in the way mentioned in the previous segments, and progress, gaining liberation and eventually enlightenment ourselves, we will then arise as a Buddha jewel. And then we will have a resultant refuge of a Buddha jewel as well. Then all three refuges, we will be illustrations of all three refuges, and there will be resultant refuge. Right now, because we are not Arya beings, the refuge we have is that of a causal refuge, which refers to other beings and the realizations on their continuum. But by relying on the causal refuge, we will generate or arise as the resultant refuges ourselves.
배진하나 망고 되네기 점도 거셔야 되는 등으로 되는 인자다 유익협세대 어디는 실력으로 제위협세 되는 시에서도 고야기 다도시 와체 두시어로 다디네 del이야 탈바 되바는 게 cap세대 상지 건조 최고지 기류 건조대 탈바 되바는 게 cap레스 이제 지들 가르고스는 탈바 메되바는 cap말에서 그거는 된데 그거 진짜 탈바 되바는 게 cap레스 진짜 del이야 되지 안다 타바 케멜렌 바이나 타바 케멜렌 바이나 제와치말 하다 미삼 고마 토바 되바이나 안디디 캡차기 얼마리베 세기 똑바로 시드니게 응구로 받아 제가 캡레베 마레베 세자 제가 디니게 제가 디네 타바 되바는 게 캡라도 와 제와치말 하다 미고마 쌈 톱도 되네 아니 디 아니 타바 되고 말어 와된 캡 말어 와 마레 마레 세자 언도시네 디니 순고로 여러 와다
Looking at this quotation, the Buddha, his teachings, and the Sangha are the protecting refuges of those aspiring for liberation. So, okay, that makes some sense. But what about for those who aren't yet aspiring for liberation, who just have a fear of falling into the lower realms in the next life, and therefore they desire a good rebirth as a human or God? Are the three jewels not a suitable refuge for them?
지다당 안에 지경한저 개와치말 하다 미고방 점 토가지 캡순보디기 캡지 로봇지기로 받아가지 로봇지기리 에너지 팽고어래 판도 용고어래 되네 캡지고어래스 이나다 델레야 탈바 되받는 게 캡시야 돼 갈수 없으네 탈바 되받는 게 캡시디 안줄이야 그 코위 동안에 드레체 탈바 톱우두 샘비기 삼로치 탈바지 토발라 탈바 토발라 디 숨보디 냠수 말렘바 탈바 톱투고 말해지래 진짜 디숨 냠수 말레나 탈바 톱투고 빼내나 상제 권초게 뜸비 람델 제소장 안델레 롭된 바 냠는 제제 람된 귤라게 대권발레 때네 아니 녀모바 사본 바치 사본 라바방한테 라바라 빵빵 두시네 녀모바 사본나 제바 빵바디 가리고 도전 상지 유송시별 안 상지베 수비 최될 냠렌제 기둥권주 로제바들 추진의 냠수 렘발 최권주의 최권주 남대 냠수 렘발에 때네 아니 녀모바 사본나 제바 빵고그리에서 마도 델라 마템바 타바 토투 말해서 제상 타바 되반 미cap스 타바 토바 되반이 인지 민지 될때 냠내 제고래서 디네 타바를 줘두고 타바 토투그래 마도 코베 동안을 겹투그래 마도 될 디숨보디 냠내 맞아봐 아니 내가 코베 동안에 겹투 말해서 그러다 제상 타바 되반 미cap스래
The way to understand this then is, of course, by relying on the three jewels, they will assist one in creating the causes for a good rebirth. But if one does sincerely aspire for liberation, then it is indispensable that one relies on the three jewels. There is no way to attain liberation from samsara in its entirety without relying on the three jewels. Because it's only through relying on the three jewels that one can attain true cessations and true paths in one's continuum.
이상다 타로 되바는 게 심전 탐주 코르웨 동안을 가서 코르웨 동안을 타고도 선비게다 근데 소소 라니 지고 섬다베나 라니 코에 동안에 탈제 탈바 톱구도 선비 삼로지 여행 쪽이 아니 람데들 톱지게 탑 람데라 냠는 지금 마도 현다에 냠는 지금 말아 와서 지금 말아 탈바 톱구도 선비게 탈바 되냐기 dimba 예나 아니디 최고 쪽에 람 냠는 제를 배주 제제 아니디 톱톱그레스 디나지 녀모랑 마지 심전 탐지 코에 동안 타다를 줘지 상지고 톱구도 선비 탈바 톱구도 선비게 탈바 심전 탐지 탈바 되냐기 탈바를 꼬디게 되냐기 dimba 줘봐이나 아니 디 톱지게 탑 람데레 냠는 제발레 때네 아니 디 톱투그레스 제산디 너니면 델레 마진 너니면 델레야 아니 냠는 지 말레스 디 냠는 마진에 캡쳐요 말레 제사 탈바 되바는 캡세데 탈바 너니게 뎀바 유간 쪽이 델레 냠는 제발레 지 투그레스 마도 탈바 되베 너니게 뎀바 메나 델레야 냠는 지 투마 지게 용 말레스 오라 제사 디네자 탈바 되바는 이다 디 캡숨보데 냠는 제야데 탈바 너니게 dimba데 매 간사 디지고 냠는 제발라 때네 타바도 토그레스 타바토발라 디인지미지 냠는 제고레스 제사데 냠는 제 되발레바자 타바 되니 dim바 타바 톱구도 샘비게 랑다 현차서 타바 톱구도 샘비 되니 dim바데 유겐디기 냠는 지금 마도 디더니 dim바면에 냠는 지금 말레스 디자 타바 되바님이 cap세데
The three jewels, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, are the indispensable refuge to rely on in order to achieve liberation from the sufferings of samsara. But for them to be able to skillfully guide one so as to develop oneself and to thereby generate true paths and cessations and attain liberation, the practitioner has to generate the aspiration for liberation. And that aspiration, the practitioner themselves has to generate. Without generating the aspiration for liberation, the three jewels cannot guide one to liberation. One cannot achieve liberation by relying on the three jewels if one lacks the aspiration. And this then is referring to a genuine heartfelt aspiration, not a mere expression of words. Because without such an aspiration, one will not apply oneself to cultivate the path within one's continuum. One will either not practice at all, or one will do so half-heartedly. So therefore, for the three jewels to be able to fulfill the function of guiding us to attain our own liberation from suffering, we ourselves have to generate a genuine, a transformative aspiration.
다 된다니보라 디니게 지진이디게 된다니보 가르고 가르순고라세네 그래서다 파베 가사 쳐봐들래 소소당보 타바 되냐게 삼바 냠네 타바세 토구도 셈비 코위 둥알 파 타구도 삼 코와 둥알에 균 통하자 코위 둥알에 타고도 셈비 삼단 타바 토구도 셈비 삼로지다 디게 삼로군에 랑제네 아니 냠네 제발에 되네 람데니 귤라게 지나 파베 가사샤 차 되네 파베 가사 되네 냠네 림바지 야 타치네 되네 녀모바 지바 바샤데 제바 바네 산제 권초 차바레스 제사당아서 산예 좀데네 세디 지난 규단 깨람마 되바 당보네 마인바 근데 그 규단 깨 람냠는 제발에 때네도 신당보 코위 둥을 통 될래 견통 되네 코위 둥을 타고서 배 탈되게 삼바기 타바더니 토고서 되니 둥바기 디냠는 제발에 때네 람냠는 제발에네 근데 게든 거죠자 되네 안에 게든 파베 가사지 되네 냠는 제발에 타라 아니 녀모 바쳐데 제바 반 산지 고바 토바레시 지상 산지 세디 규단 깨 현실을 되네 안에 두고레스 대야 안에 녀모 사번에 제가 빵바에서 빵야 들래 년보디 가르고면서 동반이도 배셔라 공발에 되네 빵바레스 지상 최람지 라신 주베 동바레스 지상디 동공보에디 되네 공바 토바레스 다 상계세야 되나 누신 두고레스 시행도 되나님보디 디송고로 와다.
Summarize the meaning then, or rather, the essence of this particular verse is that in order to attain the completion or the perfection of the path, the required causes must be developed. And the foundational cause is to recognize the faults of samsara. And independent on recognizing the faults of samsara, the wish to be freed of samsara will arise. There's a proportionality in terms of the vivid clarity with which one sees samsara as pervaded by suffering. In proportion to that realization, the aspiration to arise from the suffering realms of samsara will arise. So therefore, the stronger or the clearer one sees the pervasive suffering in samsara, proportionately, the aspiration to definitely emerge from the suffering realms of samsara will arise. And thereby, one will have the sufficient determination. From this aspiration, one will have the sufficient determination to receive teachings and integrate them. In other words, to train in and cultivate the paths and develop those paths ever further until true cessations, true paths, the Dharma jewel and the Sangha jewel are attained and developed ever further until liberation and enlightenment are achieved. So here we see that this process of spiritual development is dependent on causes. Whatever goal we wish to attain will only come about through the accumulation of correct and complete causes, starting with aspiration. And to generate the aspiration comes about in seeing the faults of what we need to abandon. And thereby we will apply ourselves to abandon those faults and develop the initial path and develop that path until we have completed all the paths and attained the state of perfection.
네네. 다디네 자다 나 주게 다딜이야. 나 주게 랍제 냠린 직린 거야 돼 가르래람네. 지상 디니게 직접 상계세 디야 아니 지게 최군조 세디 냠는지 델라디네 아니 기든 거 저제 두스나 상계군주 차와인자 당 주이네 심제 상계 고방 토발라 단 냠는 디제네 마도 탈바 되바님이 캡플러 탈바 냠는지 디 냠는지네 마도 탈바 툭툭 말에 세지 무슨 말인자 당하주인의 디 냠는지 와디 지산다 상지고바 토바다 녀모베 빵베 자준비도 토바이네 디숨 냠는지 오래세 다데네 다 직디숨 냠는지기 나네 당보 가르치고서는 아주 람딘세 냠는지 규례게 와데 지산다 람딘세도 규례게 와라 녀라 가르고선 초람의 조람의 고르와다 초람의 조람세지 당하주기 조람 당하주 태바 침비게 람냠는 바시나 다 태바침비 초람의 조람 남는지를 깨와는 얘라 태시요 조람 세대 태시 초람 시키고 그래. 대제 태시 초람서 깨발라 얘라 가르고 그러시네. 되네 자주 샘기도 태시 초람 기고 그래. 제가 자주 샘기 하라 가르고 그러시네. 잠바는 인지 공부 그래서. 제가 잠바는 인지 공부하되 가르고 그러시네. 당보 코발랭 예중 그래서. 제가 코비 동화 타달래 타고도 선배 삼태도 대라다 현 차상 코비 동화 타고도 선배 삼당 지난 코비 동화 타도게 선배께 와라 가르서는 코비 견 통고래제 되는 현상 지금 코비 견 통고래서 지난 되네 통화들라 지금 냠는 제바다 되네 통화돼 당보 롭든 시긴 아니 기회 신이래 된 거고래서지 되는 현상 당하도 단단 닝보디 가르서는 다 소수이네 다 지게 탈바 토고자 타바토와 람딜레테네 타바토고인자 당아주기데 람딘기엘이야 안당보 소람기고 저주심기고래 지산디게발라 잠니지고 되네 자다 겐심제 탐지기도 산제고바 토고디인자다 데 최권조 규례기네 냠는 제발라 되네 안에 토고고래 디 최권조 기바게발라 소람조람디고 저주심기고래 디게발다 잠니지기 온도도 하선베게 딘 림바데 하고와 제네 냠네 림바데 당보 디제 니베지 하고 되네게 삼단에 되네 소소라랑기 델야 안지강도 지두기 지게 코르 동안 델레데 타고도 라신 차상 대화도 동안 메도 주발 제정 코르 심제 탐제 대화의 대마 심제 동안의 자고 준비 도체 잠바데 니지고 Dene simja tamje dunga da jawa da ngi chi simja da jo khobe dunga le traje ya sangye sala guyin sembe ngi ji se hasan namda kine dene ngi simja tam sa yo go ba to par sho sembe gi ni ja sho sem go mi ye da tablam je du se ne tablam je ba tablam je ne nyamne je go de da de le tene nga zu ne du se ne nyamne je go de nga zu lab je len go de ro da je sangye ya dene ji nyamne de sangye so re nga zu dene gi nyamne ji mu tu je jo je ba ina da sangye go ba to ya gi 때 람칼마스노 고갑지 요요 바르와 디네상 나즈랑신 참마 디토리아 베제치고데 예침보라 차고도 이내당아서 남미다지 지저를 녀지 따따따다지 제 도움도 이내다 됐어서 제가 거 야부로와
What I hope that you take from this verse is the ever clearer recollection or recognition that the attainment of spiritual goals such as enlightenment comes about in dependence on the accumulation of the complete set of causes. And therefore, the attainment of your spiritual goals can only come about in dependence on the complete accumulation of the required causes, which means one has to develop the required foundation of causes, because there is a specific sequence of training that, in dependence on the realization of the prior sequence, the prior step, latter steps will come about. If the prior steps are not properly accumulated, the latter steps will be insufficiently strong to lead to the attainment of one's spiritual goals. Here, we spoke about the generation of true cessations and true paths, which would lead to the arisal of the Dharma jewel within oneself and one being classified or counted amongst Arya Bodhisattvas. But in order to attain this level, which is the path of seeing, comes about in dependence on the path of preparation. And the path of preparation comes about in dependence on the prior cultivation of the path of accumulation. The path of accumulation for the bodhisattva is only attained through the generation of bodhicitta, uncontrived bodhicitta. And uncontrived bodhicitta requires the generation of love and compassion. And to generate the love and compassion that will lead to bodhicitta, this requires the prior generation of definite emergence. And definite emergence, for that to arise, requires the prior cultivation of the realization of the sufferings of samsara in their entirety. And for that to be generated, one needs to rely on a qualified teacher. This then is a sequence of trainings that one has to engage in. To the extent that one develops a foundational level, the subsequent level will be able to be attained in proportion to the strength of its foundation. And this process continues sequentially. So therefore, if any of the intervening steps are omitted, one's development is impeded. So therefore, what I hope you take from this verse is that we need to train in the same way that all the Buddhas have done and all the Bodhisattvas are. And we have this incredible opportunity. We should not let it go to waste. But that being said, it is difficult to transform the mind, especially at the foundational level before one has given rise to transformative realizations, to powerful valid cognitions. So therefore, one is very drawn towards things that really have no essence, have no meaning. We are so easily distracted. So therefore, I encourage you to try and do ever more, working with where you are, but remembering the impermanence of this opportunity and its preciousness, and not letting it go to waste. And working in a balanced way, training repeatedly over a sustained period. And in this way, we'll utilize well what remains of this life and develop this indispensable foundation.
Dine inza da ngana zuke sanje sayade dine gyugore, giryun goncho sayade gyugore, lam nyamne je rinpa dine sayade ngana zuke pa xie che, shik pa chine, de shinggoya de ye chimbore, shinggoya de dirwa. Ine da jik dine ki ne su je dine de sanje dine re da, ane giryun goncho de chio goncho dine re, lamne rinpa dine re sayade jike shingbayi ne, so su ki di nyamne ra ma che bayi ne, anjita ne su ji xingwa zamato sosugi sem yuwa röas kaya ma yargi röas kaya chegi marwa. Jesa da ngana zuki dini ki kunzu dini chebare, kunzu dini jine sangye kuba tobare, ya dus chebare. Jesa ngi kya dina xin kunzu cheba na xin xin nyamlen jiyin sempeke da dunba roji ngana zuki da semshul ma son dini ki kiye chene, an di tole ya, an chikona zuki nyamlen cheyale ya. 배수 제거대 개침뭐 제거래. 이 아주 창마래다 미미데 결혼도 제거라서 결혼도 좀 시바 좀 많이 봐. 나라에 제거를 찾아 찍바로 와. 그래서데 나도 찾아 찍바래 심제 찍바래. 대자당 아주 내내 인자 나도 생아랑다 나도 찾아기 다 찍기 되니게 시바 좀 많이 봐. 되니게 라는 따고야지. 다 도나닝 보디 가지고 조디 가지고 라는 따고야지. 다 도나닝 보디도 와. 다니
The final point to make is that hopefully you've understood the presentation clearly tonight and you have a good understanding of what the three jewels are, what the Sangha, the Buddha jewel is, and the word Sang and Ge, the purify or cleanse, and vastness of good qualities. You also understand well what the Dharma jewel is, the actual refuge, true paths and true cessations, and this is initially gained on a temporary level, eventually perfected. And so too, the Sangha jewel being an Arya being, and eventually that's also developed that attainment's also developed to the level of perfection when one becomes a Buddha. So this, as well as the sequence of trainings, which are briefly mentioned tonight and have been many times, these need to be known. But unless one's interest in the Buddha Dharma is merely academic, mere knowledge will not lead to mental transformation. Knowledge is indispensable for mental transformation, but mere knowledge will not lead to mental transformation. One needs to combine the process of gathering knowledge with integrating it. And it's also true in the converse direction, the opposite direction. One needs to combine the integrating of knowledge with the gathering of knowledge. This is essential. This is indispensable. So the advice then for all of us, and I explicitly include myself in this, is that we need to continue to watch our mind, see the direction it's going in, and if it's going in the direction of what is truly valuable, as opposed to the mere concerns of this life. The ordinary problems that so easily overwhelm us, the ordinary pleasures that so easily distract us? Or is it in the direction of what really matters? So this is something, and again I emphasize, myself and all of us, we need to engage in, we need to look at constantly. And in brief, we need to practice. We need to practice. And remembering the literal word of practice, the literal meaning of the word practice is to gain experience of this knowledge. This is what we all need to do. Thank you. We'll leave it there for tonight. Thank you.